All right, we're live. Jeff, how you doing?
Pretty good, man.
Awesome. Do you go by Jeff or Jeffrey?
Jeffrey.
Oh, Jeffrey. Okay. My bad.
No,
I'll
no,
take
no
back the
biggie.
Jeff I said. Jeffrey. Okay, so you were just telling me a second ago, but go ahead and repeat it here. When did you first go vegan and then not vegan again and then back to vegan?
Yeah, so I was raised McDougal vegetarian. Luckily, my mom was pretty hip to the stuff back in the day. And so in the early 90s, I was already vegetarian, and I found this movement called the vegan straight edge movement, which was mostly like centered around music and activism. But I became vegan at that point. I think I was 15 or 16. And so I was a very militant, very hardline, hardcore vegan for several years until I moved to Los Angeles, where I got caught up doing all the LA stuff and partying and drinking and stuff. So I'd sold out being vegan straight edge and basically ate the standard American diet for about 10 years. As well, just, not really taking very good care of myself. And I was in a band and I was doing stuff like that. So I eventually, I'm a activist through and through. So when I was doing the band, I eventually got bored of it because it wasn't really turning out to do anything good for the greater good of the earth at all. So I left the band, and I took the money and I started a vegetable oil biodiesel company where I was converting cars to run off vegetable oil and biodiesel and stuff. So I left.
Oh wow.
Kind of that whole scene. And then recently, and so during that time, I was doing the standard American diet. Then after I stopped partying in Hollywood, I started, taking better care of myself again. So I did the keto diet. The keto carnivore thing was really big, and I did that for a couple years, and then just went back to being vegan again because it just wasn't working out for me and my body. And I knew I had always had vegan guilt from growing up vegetarian and vegan, so it was kind of easy to step back into it for me once I got to a point of just really wanting to take care of myself more.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
that was
did.
going to be my next question.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. So when you weren't vegan, were you, did you feel like kind of philosophically vegan this whole time? Like you were thinking this was horrible to do, but you just like enjoyed the
Yeah.
taste?
It was
Gotcha. Okay.
still in the back of my head. I remember I had a friend who was vegan, and I used to kind of give her crap. Um, and then I once I went vegan again, it was funny because I told her, and she was like, "You dick!" Like, but
Gotcha.
but yeah, I feel like I knew I would go back to being vegan again. Like I'm not really, like, I always felt the vegan guilt. I always felt like I was doing something wrong, and I always felt like it was temporary, at least, once I started, taking care of myself again. Um, but yeah, so then I've been doing a lot of, I do a lot of videos, I do a lot of debates, with anti-vegans, mostly like the more irrational, like carnivore dieters and keto, that are just like, don't eat vegetables, and like the more fringy. I go after more fringy people.
Yeah. So how long have you been full on vegan diet?
How long total in my life, or how long
No, just
recently? This last time,
consecutively. Yeah.
probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
this time, yeah.
Gotcha. Let's okay. So 2018-ish, 2019,
Yeah, I'm
just right before COVID hit.
44 now.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm 37. Because yeah, I have a somewhat similar situation. I didn't grow up vegetarian like you did, but when right around the age of like 18, 19 is when I started thinking for myself and getting out of the religion I was brought up in, and I also just pondered everything in life. I've always been fascinated by philosophy, and before I had even heard of veganism, I just thought about it, and I just thought like, um, why should we be doing this thing? So anyways, I went vegan on my own, and then like a year and a half in, I just missed meat so much I went back to it, and then I did a back and forth thing, and I've been vegan for 8 years now. But I think it's always fascinating to look at cases like mine and yours, where one goes vegan because of the morals of it, because of feeling that philosophy of it, and then kind of falling off the wagon and then going back to it. It's just such an interesting thing to think about when you talk to people about veganism and like maybe do like street activism, keeping in mind that you know what it's like not only to have been not vegan, but to have to have felt it, but then not followed how you felt. I think a lot of vegans that, especially newer vegans that go vegan instantly when they see a video or something, they think that anytime anybody sees a video or hears the message, if they don't go vegan instantly, they're horrible people because they personally haven't experienced like the falling off the wagon type thing.
Yeah.
So I just find that interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. These definitely it's been what was it, like 2016? There was like a bunch of documentaries that came out, and there was like a big wave of new vegans.
Dominion, I think, was the big one.
Was that it? And then
well, Dominion's the
What the
one that
Health
now
or something?
everybody. Oh yeah. There's What the Health, and then the Seaspiracy and Cowspiracy.
Cowspiracy, yeah.
Yeah. There was a bunch of those, but I think Dominion's the one that kind of replaced Earthlings in being the one that it's all just factory farm footage, and it's one of those ideas of if you watch this, then there's no going back.
Oh, Game
Which
Changers too was, I
yeah.
think that was kind of a big one also.
Yeah, I just watched that one for the first time, like 2 weeks ago, actually. But
Yeah, it's a little it's been fun watching like there's been a bunch of debates because of that. I think Joe Rogan had the producer of Game Changers on with some carnivore diet guy, and they debated. That was pretty interesting. The dude that did
I had heard that got removed, actually.
it's out there.
I wanted to watch that,
Avi's,
but
yeah,
is it?
Avi's
Okay.
got a whole, him and someone else reviewed it. It's really, really good. But dude, the Avi actually, I think, Dr. Avi helped the producer go on there and have all those badass arguments.
Oh, okay.
But it's a good one.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, so there a big wave, and then it's been like kind of tapering down over the years, obviously, because a lot of people, are fad dieters, and then veganism isn't the most simple diet to have as far as getting enough intake. A lot of people go vegan and they automatically start eating at a deficit because they just don't eat enough. And you have to eat a lot when you're vegan. Me and my fiance are we're endurance cyclists, so it's like we're constantly testing our bodies. And if one day we don't eat right, the next day we go riding, we totally feel like crap, and our mileage suffers. So trying to go out and ride 130 miles in a day, you got to eat a lot of food, and
130 miles in a day.
Yeah, wow. That's a long day for us, or that's a race. Yeah, usually we'll do races that are that long. But we'd also do bike packing, where we ride bikes like really far with backpacking gear and like camping out. So it'll go on like multiple day. We went across Texas, which was pretty crazy. There was a lot of roadkill in Texas.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so obviously trying to do endurance sports while vegan, you really get in tune with how everything works. And like we're super carb based. Carbs are awesome. And so, but yeah, so when a lot of people go vegan, or they go vegan for health reasons or for animal reasons, it's like you see a lot of people drop off because it's not very easy to eat enough as a vegan and to get enough food, because people tend to deficit eat, and that's when you get the people that go back to eating meat and trash the vegan diet, when they failed at something, and they failed at a fad diet. Or I mean, they're fad dieters that didn't really take it serious. Um,
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
that's
Well,
where you get. Go ahead.
what do you think is holding back the movement the most? Like, if you could get vegans to do a certain thing, to have a certain approach or something, what do you think would the best approach to making veganism snowball in a better way?
Probably getting more people out. I mean, I don't know if obviously like people like Earthling Ed and like the really cool positive vegans that are becoming huge influencers. We obviously need more people like him.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of tough because I feel like vegans, I mean, I know it's a generalization, but we're pretty good activists as far as being active and
Mm-hmm.
spreading the message. So I'm not sure exactly what I would change about vegans. And then these days, man, after going through all that stuff with going through those debates with Garland, after the second debate, I had the whole European vegan movement reach out to me, and
Mm.
I met all these new people, and it was just really inspiring to see, how just the vegans are kicking ass right now. Like we're doing really
Mm-hmm.
well as far as content and as far as having these debates with these guys and getting them down to the brass tacks and being like, look, like, most of this stuff you guys are saying is absolutely untrue. Like that's where it was with Garland. Man, that dude. It's frustrating when you put so much energy into something and someone just kind of ignores it. Like I was watching Garland on your show the other day, and he was just saying all this stuff that I had just gone through like we got him to concede to these things that now he's still talking about. Oh, like
Yeah.
we looked at all the numbers, we looked at the crop death numbers, we went through everything like down to brass tacks about
Mm-hmm.
soy and ethanol and all this stuff, and he conceded on the show, and then he just continues to go do his stuff as if it never happened. So it's a little,
Gotcha.
it's been like I could only watch him on your show for a couple minutes the other day because I was just like,
Right.
I can't take it. Like,
Well, I think one thing that's interesting, there's so many different angles you can take a topic, but one thing that's interesting about the idea of, let's say we take soy. If his argument is that soy causes more harm for what it does for the vegan menu than for what it does for animals, then it can't be that it would make anything wrong about veganism. It would just mean that if it were true, then vegans should consume less soy or something. That I mean, like that's all it would mean if it were true. Now, if it weren't true, then it just isn't true, which is I'm guessing what you proved wrong about Garland. But even if he's right, all he's referring to is this thing that takes place that all you'd have to do is to not do it.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
like I guess that's just kind of my counter to all anti-vegan stuff is if we just hypothetically accepted that they were right about anything, if you just take any product, if avocados, if it killed more animals to get avocados than it is to kill animals to eat them, then eating avocados would not be vegan. Like our goal isn't to just make some random claim about plants. Our goal is to not needlessly harm animals. And so there is no debunking veganism. Veganism just follows the path to not harming the animals.
yeah, that's why it's fun. I always crack up when people tell me that I'm evil and stuff because I'm vegan. I'm like, what? How what? Because I don't eat animals, I'm evil. It's like
Yeah.
it's super funny. But yeah, Garland, like, Garland's tough because he thinks he's just like every crop is full of rodenticide and every animal's killed, and it's like these ideas like shooting a bird that comes into a crop area doesn't do, like, that's not what most farmers do. That's not going to do anything. Like, birds aren't going to leave because a bird got shot there. They're still going to show up. Like, it's just
Mhm.
it's massive generalizations about how farming is, but it's like it's just worst case scenario. But to him, it's all across the board. Like, he doesn't understand that the incidental versus like he thinks that since we know animals get killed, that crop deaths exist, that we're not vegan because we haven't done anything to to stop it or get, it's
Mhm.
like he doesn't understand that if vegans were farming, they wouldn't be doing these things. And he just it's really tough
Yeah.
doing stuff with him. I had to literally, like, he wanted to do another debate, and I was just like, I don't have time for you anymore. Like,
Yeah. Well,
the
his goal is to end veganism. He's not looking it. I, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I don't get the vibe that he has any interest in figuring out what's right.
no.
He just wants to prove veganism wrong for whatever reason. But I think the one thing that is good about what he's doing, or at least his ideas, is it's things I have never heard of before. When I thought of crop deaths in the past, the only thing I ever really heard of was just the idea. I imagined a tractor plowing through a field to get carrots, and mice and snakes that were there would die, and these would be accidents, and I just wasn't too worried about it. Now, if according to Vegan Gains, rodenticide doesn't happen much in the US.
No.
I don't know if that's accurate, but wherever it does happen, I would say that it's worth working on innovations to have better methods to make, like, things that have sound frequencies to make rodents not want to be in a certain radius. Just various methods that would to use in place of these types of things. So I think it is worth looking at all these crop ideas. Like, for example, um, the pesticides that are sprayed on crops for your standard crops versus organic crops that don't have pesticides but use manure.
Mhm.
Like, us looking at the math, kind of outweighing, like how bad is manure, or how likely is it for a third option of veganic farming where there's no pesticides and no manure. And I don't think we should ignore these things. I don't think we should just say, oh, crop deaths don't matter, what a joke of an argument. We just don't have to look at it as countering veganism. It's just, what can we as vegans do to have a better outcome with crop deaths?
Yeah, that's where we get back to good faith debates, and that's, well, why I won't
Hmm.
debate Garland anymore, is because I've
Gotcha.
wasted a lot of time trying to have these conversations with him, and it's just like it's in one ear and out the other with him. And he just wants to keep looping on the same few arguments he has, that are clearly, have clearly been debunked and are clearly debunkable. He just doesn't want to admit it. And then he wants, his regenerative grazing, like, so in order to regeneratively graze, you have to clear the field, right? Which is
Hmm.
the same thing you have to do if you're going to grow crops. There's so many holes to his arguments.
Hmm.
And like, he loves talking about how, that we got to shoot pigs and the wild boars from damaging the crops, but the wild boars were actually brought here for the animal agriculture industry. So it's like there's so many of these arguments he has, but you know
Yeah. Well,
he's
what do you
never
think?
going to actually listen, or ever actually going to take into consideration anything we say, because he's trying to be the anti-vegan guy, and he's trying to build his YouTube, and that's all he really cares about, is building a collection of
Yeah.
anti-vegans. He's not interested in the least bit of in getting down to what actually is real and not, which is a bummer,
Yeah.
because like, I really want to have these discussions in good faith, but
Hmm.
it's just like, you know
Yeah, yeah, I can't quite figure him out. In a lot of ways, I kind of like him. In other ways, he seems to be. I can't quite get a read on him. I'll probably have some more conversations with him, but he seems to jump to conclusions a bit too much. Like the talk that you saw part of yesterday, me and my buddy Michael, who was on there before I think you showed up, just at the beginning we were saying that there's a difference between accidentally killing something or protecting something
Intentionally
and the
or
intentional. Yeah.
incidental. There's a big difference in
And
those two things.
yeah, well, and without hearing us out or having a conversation and breaking it down, it was just this like yelling, upset thing. And it's like, you can't just expect us to go, okay, we're not vegans anymore, we're on your side, or anything else is you just yelling at us. Let's have a relaxed conversation. And that's what kind of bums me out.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's quite capable of it, but we'll see. I'll have a few more from him, because if he has something worth sharing, I'm always up for hearing it. So
It would have
I'll
come
give it a
out by
shot.
now if he did,
It would have come,
because he does a lot of content. So it's like, it's pretty
yeah.
funny.
Yep. Okay, so let's I am curious, in a perfect world, well, I mean, I don't know how perfect, but somewhat more perfect, if there were a case where you had these wild boar that were coming up to a field, what do you think the best way to handle it would be?
I mean, I as not a farmer don't necessarily have all the answers to those questions. I mean, obviously fencing, would help quite a bit. Um, but
Do
you
you think
know,
that if we ended factory farming and humans didn't kill any animals, that it would still be reasonable for somebody to have the right to shoot an animal that came onto their property like that? Or would you have to call up like an animal reserve place to have them come and get it? What do you think?
I just the necessity to shoot an animal is ridiculous, because most animals are scared of humans, and you could very easily scare them away. And scaring them away is actually easier to do than buying a gun, buying ammunition, and shooting them. Like the shooting, the rodenticide and the shooting every single animal thing is really small brain stuff. It's not stuff that, like, it's like only the worst farmers would be doing that consistently, that are simply like not wanting to spend the money to actually control their fields. And like, I live in California, and I live in a very farmy area, and there's no animals here, getting into these fields for the most. I mean, but not what Garland is explaining is happening in every single field is not happening in lots of fields in lots of farms. So there, obviously farmers need to maintain and control their fields a little bit better, outside of just blowing away every animal that flies into the area. This whole thing started with me responding to it was Rogan and Uncle, what's his name? The guitarist, the old, how is his name not in my head right now? Goofy bow hunter guitarist guy. Someone in the chat help me.
Ted?
Anyway, it was a response.
Ted Nugent?
Yeah, Ted Nugent. So Uncle Ted Nugent was saying that he's like, literally every bird, every rabbit, every mouse needs to get shot. That goes, and it's just, that's not realistic. Like, that's not, for one, if you have enough time to be out patrolling, this much, that you're going to be catching all these animals and shooting them, you could simply be scaring them away, killing the animal. Like I said earlier, most animals don't understand, when like, sure, an animal gets killed, gets shot, they're going to be, the other animals are going to run away for a little bit, but they're going to come back. It's just not, it's not like smart, and it's not efficient, and it's not really how things are done these days. There are many, 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 many ways to deter animals from, going into fields and farms and stuff. And it's just killing everything. Like, it's kind of crazy to take that, position. Just, I'm just going to kill every single thing that comes in here. It's super wild. And then even, with the whole, preparing the fields, like that honestly happens once every crop cycle. And animals are scared of loud machines and stuff, and they'll run away. It's not as simple as what Garland explains is happening in every single farm. That there's
Yeah.
this like a holocaust happening in every farm, and that people are employed to go out there and shoot these animals. And it's like, no, those are hunters. They'd be hunting whether or not there's a field there or not. There's so many logical responses to Garland's statements he likes looping on month after month after month. But
Yeah, no, I think it'd be interesting to find out which methods are allowed or not allowed in like certain states and various different farms. It'd be interesting to see. What are your thoughts? Do you personally eat organic or not organic when it comes to produce?
I do. Yeah, I don't. At that point, I'm not like, obviously if I had easy access to other things, I would prefer. But at that point, I'm not really worried about the content of the compost or whatever,
Hmm.
at that point. There's another argument for Garland is in the California, there's tons of vegetable companies doing hydroponic now. And I know obviously that becomes like a environmental problem because there's a lot of electricity being used, but in these hydroponic farms, there are no animals being killed. And
What's hydroponic? I don't know
is
what that is.
indoor, not grown in the ground, like aquaponic. It's they're growing crops indoors under lights.
Oh, okay,
And of
gotcha,
course, you
gotcha.
had to bulldoze the field to put the building there. But there are just so many responses to Garland, and he'll never take any of them into consideration because he just wants to believe his arguments because he doesn't have that many.
Do you know if there are studies that test the nutrients of produce that are grown this way versus like having the sun? I imagine it's probably all right, but I just wonder if the sun
A lot of these
would
places, they don't
lead.
even use soil. It's like
Mm,
aeroponics. It's where
okay.
the roots grow in the air, and there's little misters that spray the roots, so there's no soil.
Oh,
um
weird.
yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
I
And they're
wonder. Yeah,
getting
I'd be
and they're
curious to
getting
see.
like way better crops out of these hydroponic uh farms, I guess they're called. If you
Yeah.
go up the 5 in California, you can see these giant buildings, and they're making vegetables. It's just a
Yeah,
different,
yeah, interesting.
yeah,
I think they're going to perfect this kind of thing. The future definitely will include no killing of animals and everything being perfected. It's kind of a interesting thing being like one of the guinea pigs. Like we are at a time where less than 100 years ago veganism was kind of invented. And all of these ideas of growing things vertically, growing things in buildings is just so new. I'll be curious to see how the studies pan out because I mean I feel like I'll definitely always be vegan for moral reasons, but I also care much more about my health than pretty much any other human or animal. And so I'm always curious to see what the studies say. I imagine that produce has to grow in dirt for the nutrients the dirt has. So I'm curious to do some research to see like what they do to make the crop grow right. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I mean, obviously they put it's similar to how they grow marijuana. They have the water. They have nutrients that they put into the water and spray onto the root systems. It's pretty interesting. But
Hmm.
yeah, a lot. I mean, that's the other thing. Garland's position is very much rooted in nutrients, and the
Hmm.
nutritional content um, of these foods. And we're really, like the macros are really a lot more important to us as humans than the actual nutritional content. And while that like Joey Schwartz and Garland, all day they talk about how meat is the most nutrient dense. Nutrient dense doesn't mean necessarily nutritious for humans or bioavailable for humans or absorbable for humans. So it's they're trying to say that there's no way we could ever be healthy eating vegetables because vegetables don't have as much nutrient in them. And I don't know if you watched my second debate with Garland when Vegan Gains came on, and
Yeah,
Garland
I did see that
couldn't
one.
even like he came up with like one nutrient that you couldn't get in meat or in vegetables, and it turns out that wasn't even something that there's never been someone deficient in that in the history of doing medicine. And it's just
Yeah.
once you press these guys, they have nothing. They just have these statements that they like saying over and over and over again. And once you get below that and try and get them to, that's why Garland doesn't like doing that's why he gets so upset and just wants to argue, because he doesn't want to find out the truth. He just wants to build his YouTube and get his followers, because all the anti-vegans want to see is they want to see a anti-vegan go and yell at a vegan, and that's what Garland was doing on your show the other day, and that's all he's really interested in doing.
Yeah. No, it's pretty interesting. Well, I feel like the nutrients thing is so interesting. Like personally, I feel convinced that whole food plant-based is the way to go. I imagine our diets naturally are something like chimpanzees and other primates. And probably my main source of following nutrition information is Michael Greger, Nutrition
Dr.
Facts,
Greger's
if you're familiar.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I feel convinced, but since this is all new, I have stated when talking to people that I wouldn't necessarily make it illegal to eat animals at this point. I just want to hopefully convince people that they can be healthy being vegan. But my kind of main push I have with people, especially in the US, is people are so unhealthy as it is. And so if somebody is convinced that they need to eat meat to be healthy, like Garland, then it's like, okay, you're gonna eat meat that you think you need to eat to be healthy. That's fine. But if you're gonna start eating cakes and cookies and deep fried chicken nuggets from McDonald's and hot dogs and all these things that every single possible diet or nutritionist or doctor would say these are clearly unhealthy foods, and you're going to make animals suffer just for your taste buds. That's the ultimate problem. Now,
Yeah.
I think down the road it'd be great if everybody went vegan, but for now, I don't even want to convince meat eaters to stop eating meat. I want them to recognize there's a difference between their decent argument of wanting to eat meat for health is nowhere near the idea of, if you make that claim but then go to McDonald's and eat a Big Mac, you're just making something suffer for absolutely no reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. A flavor. It's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah, I mean, it's shocking how much science denial is happening in the carnivore movement. They don't want to believe anything at all. Just their anecdotes, basically. I mean, that whole Harvard study that came out saying that all carnivore diet's great, and it turns out it was all what's that guy, the other carnivore guy, the carnivore diet guy, or the carnivore diet guy that got the big break on Rogan. Man, it's been so nice taking this couple months off and just forgetting about half this stuff, all these guys' names and everything. But
the only carnivores I'm familiar with are the Jordan Baker, and his daughter
Dr.
Michaela.
Baker. Yeah.
Okay, Baker. Yeah.
Baker. He it was all his people that did the study. Like he sent 300 of his clients to the guy doing this study, and it was all based on just they're all, oh yeah, it's just, yeah, it's great now, like everything's great, my health's great. It's like, yeah, you're taking, you got nothing but carnivore dieters, and all they're doing is self-reporting that they're doing great, which of course someone who shows up that's a carnivore dieter, if they weren't doing great, they probably wouldn't be doing the carnivore diet anymore. Therefore, they wouldn't be there. So it's like these studies are ridiculous. And that's what I had to get down to with Garland and Joey, especially because Joey was talking about, I was giving him meta studies, metadata, and he was giving me like articles, and that's what Garland likes doing. He's like, oh, look at this article says this, this article says this.
Mhm.
And it's like, dude, I'm giving you metadata, like hundreds of studies of thousands upon thousands and thousands of people over years, and you're giving me an article. It's like
Yeah.
these dudes are really out of touch, and they don't have anything to back up anything but their own personal. I mean, you can't just
Mhm.
eat meat. Like, that's
What about
crazy.
what do you feel about this comment here? VL Now says studies are corrupt and studies only say what is best for the majority, not the individual. So don't laugh at personal experience.
Well, studies are personal experiences of many more people than just one person. So, of course, all
Mhm.
studies, if you go deep enough, you'll find problems in all these things. But this is still our best information. You can't
Mhm.
ignore that it's still our best information. And if our best
Yeah.
information is saying you can't eat like that and have a long, happy, healthy life, which is all our information says that,
Mhm.
some guy that got a doctorate from a website shows up on Rogan, says the opposite. And since the cult of Rogan is so deep, it's just, it becomes, and then these guys get together and it's all like, not double speak, but it's all like infield, they're in an echo chamber just talking to each other. So they spread
Mm.
around each other's BS. And then once they get on a panel or a debate with one of us, and we're like, dude, no.
Well, yeah,
Like,
maybe the separation should be that people could recognize that a study is going to help you understand what's best likely for the species,
yeah.
where individuals can state what they feel good about, and that can be good for them, but it's important for listeners to know this is an individual that truly feels how they feel, but it is not a study that helps us understand our species and how our species works.
Yeah, and that's why the carnivore people love running with the blood diet stuff.
Mhm.
That's been clearly debunked. People say, "Oh, well, that might work for you, but it doesn't work for me." And it's like, no, we're all mammals. We all pretty much work the same on the
J-
insides. Like,
just so I can know your stance, do you, in a hypothetical where humans had to consume animals, would you go the vegan gain route and just let yourself die, or would you just eat the minimal amount you need to survive and choose yourself first and then maybe humans above other animals?
Richard, he's funny. I like the yeah, it's a tough one because I do like the rights violations argument. I don't think I would just let myself die. Um yeah.
Yeah,
It
like
would be unfortunate, and I'm glad
let's
it's a
say that it
hypothetical.
yeah. Well, let's say that it turned out that we weren't getting enough B12 from vitamins and it just wasn't working. And to get enough B12 to have your brain not have a likelihood of like having some severe issues, you had to eat like one fish a month.
Mhm.
Would you risk letting yourself get something closer to like dementia by not killing one fish a month? Or would you feel like one a month is worth it for your own caring about your health and survival?
I would probably look at that as, yeah, I mean, the sentience level of fish is pretty low. The sustainability
Mhm.
is pretty high. I don't know.
Yeah.
I I would probably choose to continue living if it was just one fish a month. I don't think that
Mhm.
is. I mean, compared to what's happening now with factory farming and the main, like the stuff I mainly am concerned about, the things that I go after, these more fringe people that are actually spreading disinformation and like factory
Mhm.
farm stuff's obviously pretty bad. Factory farm workers have depression and commit suicide far higher rate. Anytime they put a factory farm in a city, around that factory farm, crime goes up. There's all kinds of,
Mhm.
especially domestic violence. So it's like, these are, while yes, these are fallible studies, um, there is we do have pattern recognition, and we can see these things happening. Sorry, what was your
Mhm.
original question?
Oh, it's all right. It was just to see if you would adjust your stance on eating animals if you needed some to gain optimal health.
Yeah, my stance. I mean, my stance would always be it's wrong.
Yeah,
If
the
I'm
moral
forced
stance would be
to,
that's wrong.
if I was forced to have to eat some like fish oil or something, that would just be,
Mhm.
I mean,
Or better yet, what would you want to put on others? So there's a lot of things I wouldn't put on others, but I would say I don't think humans should be able to kill other humans. I
mhm.
don't think humans should be able to punch other humans. Um, I'm unsure with animal stuff, but if humans to be at optimal health, if we could just discover through enough testing that for humans to be at optimal health, let's say we're similar to chimpanzees, so we would optimal health could include eating like insects, like termites and stuff.
Copy.
And
Yeah.
let's say you needed like one fish a month. Um, if this was optimal health and then not consuming these insects and fish dropped your health to like 90% or 80%, um, I think it's fine for somebody to go, I'm okay with dropping my health for that. But would you, if you were the ruler of this area or you were going to convince people how to vote, would you vote to make it illegal for others to kill insects and fish to get to their optimal health?
Well, I'm a libertarian like you. So I don't want to force anyone to do anything, nor would I want to dictate what people do. I would rather the populace come to the moral realization on their own and publicly ostracize. Like I believe in that kind of stuff, but I would not want
Hmm.
to use a gun to basically as which government is. I wouldn't want to use government to force that on people. I would rather
Gotcha.
that. But I definitely take the 80% drop in health. I think a lot of these dudes um you know are there's like the whole argument, oh, veganism's being pushed to make us weak so we're more docile. I don't see, like, if that was true. So what you're saying, okay, like, if it turns out that we vegans are 40% less healthy than meat eaters, um I would definitely take the drop. But I don't think that,
Hmm.
like, I'm not sure what exactly that means, because like I mean, I'm not sure how. Obviously you want to be healthy to stay in your prime long. But if it's like, if I'm just losing some performance, like
Hmm.
if I can't ride my bike quite as far, I'm okay
Hmm.
with that. You know, I realistically, I'm not going to have to go to war in my life to go fight
Hmm.
for my life or anyone else's, most likely. So having this theoretical 100% health and performance, like, isn't something that is so important to me that I'm willing to, turn my back on animals, basically. You know, and
Hmm.
if I did take a little ding in health, I wouldn't be too worried about it. But I don't believe that's true in the least bit, because I have
Oh yeah.
had every diet, and I was my most. I mean, I was okay. To be honest, the most unhealthy I've ever been was when I was vegan when I was a kid. Because I
Hmm.
was a kid and I didn't know how to take care of I didn't know how to eat right. I lived off of, and this was vegan in a time that no one knew what the word meant.
Hmm.
So there was not vegan restaurants everywhere. There were not tons of vegan products. I lived off of soy milk and like so many soy products. It was ridiculous. So I was very unhealthy. I was the most unhealthiest I've been in my life was when I was vegan, but the healthiest I've been in my life is when I was vegan too.
Yeah.
Um, I know that, at least as far as staying in shape, when I was on the standard American diet, it was impossible to stay in shape. My body fluctuated like crazy. Um, I had a hard time, and I'm skinny, so it's like a skinny guy gets a little bit of a beer gut. It looks really messed up. So like it was very hard staying in shape, staying healthy, like as far as like cardio stuff like that. It was almost impossible. Going back this last time and doing veganism the right way, I've never had health this good.
Yeah. Well, if you're riding 130 miles on a bike in one day, I think you're probably doing pretty good with your
I'm
health.
old too.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
it's like that's the thing. It's like I I talk to these guys and I'm like, what is wrong with me that what do you think is wrong with me? Because I know my
yeah.
capabilities and I see what you are doing in your life. So what if your diet is so much healthier than mine, what is the difference?
Mhm.
Tell me the difference, because I'm able to perform on crazy levels. So if and it's like that, none of the it's all these just these statements these guys make, and they have nothing to back it up, because I can beat the pants off of pretty much anyone I know at any athletic type thing right now.
Ooh, you should
um
play ping pong against me. You're gonna lose.
yeah, well,
But
Joey,
then again, it would be vegan against vegan, so it wouldn't prove anything.
yeah, Joey, carnivore camaraderie Joey, I challenged him to any physical challenge, because he lives in LA too, and I live in LA. So I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
dude, if you're here, let's do something. And he was
That
like, yeah,
makes
let's fight. Let's fight. And I'm all, you want to
that'd be
do like
great
a
content.
UFC fight with me? And he's like, yeah. And I'm all right, I'm gonna hold you to that. But then I just hit him up a couple months ago. I'm all, let's do this. And he's like, oh, let's just play ping. He's all, let's just play soccer or something. And I'm like, dude, come on. Well, you
That's
play
funny.
soccer. I don't. That's like me going,
Yeah.
oh, let's go ride bikes and see who wins.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I'm gonna win. But it's
Yeah.
funny. I was so unhealthy when I was a meat eater. I was scrawnier than I am now. All these guys, oh,
Mhm.
you look skinny. Nah, dude. When I was skinnier, when I was a scrawnier, unhealthier looking when I was eating meat all the time. Um,
Mm.
and
Well, do you
and I've done all these things, these keto guys. Like, I know on keto I had no cardio. You can't have cardio on keto. You need
Yeah.
carbs. You need muscle glycogen. Like, you need this stuff
Well,
to
are there
live.
bodybuilders that do carnivore?
Bodybuilders.
Or yeah, just like well, I guess they wouldn't necessarily do cardio, but
There's
like
no professional athletes that do endurance that are doing keto or carnivore. Not as You will not
oh, I
find
see.
a single high performing keto person in professional sports, but you'll find vegans all throughout professional sports.
If you had oh yeah, definitely. If you
Even
had
what's his
to
name, Dr. Baker. No, Mark Sisson, the paleo diet guy. Mark
Mhm.
Sisson in his book admits, he's all, you will not have cardio on my diet. You won't.
Oh,
It's that goodbye.
interesting.
Like, he even admits it. But then these other guys won't admit it. I got guys telling me all the time they'd beat me at
So when
any race any day of the week. And I'm
so when
like,
they talk about our ancestors, they don't think that they were
cherry
eating
picking.
carnivore and like running through the forest to find deer to stab with a spear. They would have to admit that in those days they'd be eating vegetation as well as deer.
That was one of the things I
Interesting.
got Joey Schwartz on. He likes to talk about how we don't need carbs because we don't need endurance, because we ate nothing but slow moving fauna back in the day, right? So I asked him, I was like, all right, how fast did the mastodon, because he kept talking about mastodons, about how fast are mastodons? He's all, they're slow. Turns out they can go up to 32 miles an hour. So wouldn't
Mm.
it be important, you think, to have endurance to be able to chase those elephants? An elephant can only sprint for a little bit. It's got to slow down. It's not like a human. We can breathe harder. We can like keep going. So it's like
Yeah.
these dudes just don't, I'm like, dude, you didn't even know that elephants, these mastodons you talk about all the time, run fast. Like, they're fast.
Yeah.
You need to be able to go after them for a while. Therefore, you need carbs and fat. This fat adaptation is a myth. Like, it's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, well, you would think as well, like, even though people change over time and can get used to different things, that if humans were designed to like salivate or feel hungry when they see flesh of an animal, that
Doesn't
if you were
happen.
hungry enough and you just saw some roadkill or even just a pack of uncooked ground beef or something, you'd go, "Oh, that looks so good." Never, not for 1 second.
Nope.
And I used to love meat,
Yeah.
and I used to
No.
love to eat. I could eat endless amounts of things, and it's weird that we could deal with gross things like cooking meat while seeing the blood and all that, but still, you never for 1 second just look at that and feel
No.
like, "Oh, I'm so hungry."
All these
You
dudes eating
picture
the
what it'll
innards, all
become.
eating the raw meat and the guts, they're like, it doesn't really taste like anything. If we were meant to eat it, wouldn't it taste super good?
I didn't even know people do that. That sounds crazy.
Yeah, no, all these, yeah. When I was
That's
doing
wild.
the debate with Joey, he was eating some guts and he drinks milk
Mm.
with raw eggs in it.
Ooh.
And then he got
Um,
scurvy.
oh,
And that's
that's
why
not good.
it's you should check out Joey's page. It's pretty funny. It's
Yeah.
like the bottom of the barrel. Like Garland even is a little bit more, realistic
May-
than this Joey kid is. Because Joey
Maybe
just
I'll stay
doesn't know,
away.
like he has no life experience. He's 19. So it's like
Mm.
he's just purely regurgitating stuff, like Dr. Baker and Sisson and like all these guys say. And then it's
Gotcha.
funny watching the chat because there's all these adults in there. Like, why are you guys taking health advice from a 19-year-old? Like, this is wild.
Right.
Like, grow up.
RC 8802 tells me to say hi to you.
Oh, what's up?
I don't know if you're familiar with with him. Okay. I was going to ask you though, since we were talking about health, do you think that it's some kind of an obligation for vegans to be healthy, just to because for us to save the animals, to get others to look at it as a healthfully optimal diet, that we should be healthy?
Obviously, it would be a better look for the whole movement, and would be better way. I mean, it would be, as far as like promoting veganism, if you're healthy, that definitely helps, because that seems to be the main argument against us, is that it's not healthy. But I mean,
Yeah.
people don't. I don't. I don't. People aren't obligated to do anything really. Um,
Hmm.
it's nice if you're a vegan and you do activist and you are healthy and you are a good representative of us. But I don't, again, I defer back to the libertarian position of being like, people can do whatever they want. Um,
Hmm.
and, and meat eaters can eat meat and they can continue doing this, but they're going to have to deal with me talking about it. Like I'm
Gotcha.
still going to give my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
but like I with Garland, I did 2 discussions with him before we actually did our first debate, moderated debate, and we had great conversation and everything was really cool, and I was super excited to do a debate in good faith with a farmer, and then the
Hmm.
second we got into the debate and onto the clearly biased Crucible debate
Hmm.
show, and he had all his anti-vegans around him, the whole story changed.
Mm.
But everyone's allowed to do whatever they want.
Okay.
But it is nice to have, I mean, I grew up in a time there were no vegans, and people weren't even
Hmm.
talking shit about vegans when I was vegan back in the day. So it's been really
Yeah.
strange to now. Everyone used to think veganism was really cool. I used to get complimented all the time.
Hmm.
Now we're the scourge of the earth. We're worse than flat earthers. We're
Well, and
like,
it's
we're
probably as
evil.
we increase, the people that aren't vegan feel like they don't want to feel like the bad guy, and they think like, oh, these people are saying it's wrong to do this and I'm doing this, so I need to
Yeah, we
attack them.
remind them that
So
they're
yeah.
doing something wrong, and
Yeah.
that's what really upsets them. Is because I think
Yeah.
and they know in their heads they get that little tinge of guilt which tells them that it's wrong, and so that's why
Hmm.
they always talk about us flipping out, like carnivores are get triggered very carnivore dieters and or just people meat eaters are triggered very easily by vegans.
Yeah.
while we have to deal with meat eaters all day and aren't running around triggered.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to challenge something you said a second ago about being libertarian and not wanting to force people to do something. So yeah, we're both libertarians. We probably agree on most things with the law, but I would extend it to animals. I wouldn't extend it to the point where I could make a claim that since I don't know enough about the studies, or if we've studied enough, that I'd make it illegal to own, kill, and eat animals.
Mhm.
But I would say something like, if a owner of a dog stabs its dog for fun, and the dog lives, but it just did this for fun, I would say that should be illegal. I wouldn't want to say that anybody can do whatever they want. I just hope they change.
Yeah, that's where it's really weird with the law getting involved in this stuff. Is it's like, okay, so you're not allowed to beat your dog, but you're allowed to raise a cow and then kill it. Um,
Yeah.
and so, like, how do you explain that? Really?
Yeah, well, and their justification will be the eating it, but then you could ask them, so should it be legal to raise a cow, kill it, and just have it lay there and not eat it? And it would probably be too complicated to affect that law. So the law almost has to accept the killing of animals, but maybe the law doesn't have to accept the torture, which is why you have like welfarist ideas of like I think most factory farming should be illegal, where other farming, I don't know if it should be. So the cutting out of the teeth and the tails of pigs and cramming them in small cages, I would be perfectly fine with that becoming illegal. And therefore, if you want to have a pig farm, you have to have a certain amount of space per pig, and you can't cut their body parts off while, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I prefer to. I'm like an old school guy. Um, I think the big cities are the biggest problem. I think in small communities, the community can regulate the bad acting of bad actors far more. And I would rather than legislate something, because like we all know, legislating stuff doesn't do anything. It's illegal to kill, but we still kill. It's illegal to rape, but people still rape. Like, so
If it wasn't illegal to
legislation,
kill,
huh?
I think there'd be a lot more death if it wasn't. There'd be
I
a lot less
don't believe
murder.
that at
You
all.
don't think anybody's
Nope.
deterred at all? I think
No,
most
I
people,
think
if they could
I
get away
think
with
that
it, there's at least one person they would kill.
humanity being inherently bad is one of the biggest, like, it's just not something I believe in. And I think I don't think that people, like, sure, okay, people might not speed because of laws as often.
Mhm.
But I don't believe that people don't kill other people simply because there are laws. That I don't believe in the least bit.
Interesting.
And so,
Mm.
um, I would rather see the community deal with factory farms than the government. Because if the community, by voting with their dollar, um,
Mhm.
you know, that seems a lot better. Or, I mean, obviously, we need a good currency to be able to do that. But that's why government has us so screwed right now. We don't have a currency that's worth anything. And there's so many monopolies and stuff like that. But yeah, I would rather see a community reject a factory farm than some media law that's going to say something that probably won't be enforced very well. Uh,
Gotcha.
Government doesn't do anything right, so I wouldn't want to depend on them for that. But obviously, I get what you're saying. That would be obviously a good step in the right direction. Getting some more clear laws about what abuse is and what neglect, and like all these things, all the atrocities that happen in these farms. I mean, it's like you watch some of the factory farm footage, and you're like, okay, so there are definitely like laws against what some of these guys are doing right now. Like you're seeing them like the pig farms, and these dudes are just horrendously violent towards these pigs, and it's like, okay, I'm sure there's a law that says that they're not supposed to be doing that, but they are. Like, but
Gotcha.
like the community finds, sees this footage and comes up with torches and pitchforks,
Mhm.
and they're like, you guys can't do this anymore. Like, I would rather see the community deal with things. And that's how I would rather see the community deal with
Mm.
bad actors also that aren't involved in factory farming, but any kind of real criminals. Like, you have what we perceive as criminals because there's so many laws on the books, everything's illegal. But then the real, like, common law, real, like, don't kill, don't rape, those things are very few and far between, and can very
Mhm.
much be handled by the community better than government and the
Mm.
legal system and the police do now, which makes us the victim twice. You get robbed, then you're robbed for the tax dollars to imprison this guy. So you're getting victimized
Mm.
twice using their system, and then that guy gets sent away to jail where he becomes a super criminal. Like, clearly the community, where someone's having a mental health problem, they're getting a little violent, the community's like, hey, that's Sam's brother, like, let's figure this out. I lived in Central America and I
Mm.
watched this happen a lot, where the community was able to deal with a few bad actors, and I watched the community deal with a few mentally challenged people, and it was the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. Like,
Mhm.
because there were no police involved, and no one was getting sent to jail, and no one was getting, like the community came together and figured out a way to fix the problem, and it was really inspiring to see that. And it wasn't that far away from the United States that I saw that happen. Like, there was this dude with Tourette's that would run through towns. Sometimes he's cool, sometimes he's freaking out, breaking stuff. He came into the
Mm.
market one day and is grabbing everyone's food. All the ladies in the market ran over, grabbed him, and started dancing with him, and completely changed his mood. And they took him outside and they were dancing with him, and like, they just knew how to deal with him when he gets crazy.
Mm.
They didn't call the cops. The cops didn't come down, beat the crap out of the guy, take him away to jail. Like, I believe in far more, community-based solutions to the problems we have, and also with the veganism stuff, because it's very easy, like, it's not cool watching these videos. Even the meat eaters don't like seeing this stuff. I post it sometimes,
Yeah.
and I posted some video recently of footage of in a halal meat facility where they did halal, and like, all these meat eaters were like, "Oh my god, that's all." It's like,
Yeah.
we have, it's not like we don't have good, like, no one likes seeing animals get killed at the end of the day. Like, even these guys
Mhm.
that are like, oh, bacon, like, you press them enough, they're going to be like, yeah, I'd rather the animals left alone, but they still want
Yeah.
to eat them. um
Yeah. Well, I know I agree with a lot of that for sure. I got to hop off here in a sec, but I wanted to bring one more idea to you, especially in the idea of activism versus the legal side of it. Um, I almost feel like it would be better instead of trying to attempt to get as many vegans as possible, because a lot of people have uh, no ability to just like make themselves go vegan instantly. If we almost made certain types of food products be looked at it in a negative light, like, how when people think of smoking, they just view it as this like gross thing that people
yeah,
don't
it's been
like.
stigmatized.
It Yeah, like if our focus was to stigmatize fast food and stuff like that, or you kind of like how I was talking about how if you have these animal products that some people think they're getting health out of, it's like, whatever, let's leave those people alone until we can get the bulk of it taken care of. All the people that are just like in public eating McDonald's and feeling like this is reasonable, let's stigmatize that. Let's make it be like where if somebody wants to smoke a cigarette, they have to hide in their garage. If somebody wants to eat McDonald's, it's like have it delivered to your house, but don't be seen in public with it, And just like I don't know. I mean, it's probably hard. It seems like it's hard for most vegans to not focus completely on veganism. But like in my mind, and maybe it's because I touch so many different topics, I feel like it can be easy to kind of focus on what's causing the most harm to animals and what actions are the most reasonable that your average person could do to reduce that harm and That seems like one to me. If you just say all the unhealthy food, let's stigmatize that.
Well, there's a lot of brainwashing going on, man. When my daughter was 3, I used to take her to petting zoo and I'd be like, oh, she'd be playing with the animals. And I'd ask her, I'd be like, hey, do you want to eat these? And she'd be like, no. And she'd freak out, you know? And then last time I hung out with her, once she started going to school, it's like, it's like a completely different story now. We need meat for muscles, like all this. Same with my son. Like, it's like, they've just been fed all this BS that isn't true in the least bit. And it's like we were born vegan. Like we were trained to like meat. It was something that was forced on us when we were too young to have a choice. So all these people, oh, I love my meat. And it's like, well, you didn't in the beginning. You were trained, you acquired that taste after it was forced on you when you were too young to have a choice. And libertarians really don't like hearing that, because they're like, it's all about choice, and it's wrong to force things on people. So when you tell them that, your parents forced you to eat that meat, they're like, like it really, they don't like hearing that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, that's what's funny when these dudes are saying that veganism's, getting shoved down our throats. I'm like, go to the supermarket, man. Like, it's 2% vegan. The rest is all, for the most part, I mean, not all the vegetables, but there's dairy and meat and almost everything. Like, it's wild to hear what these guys are saying.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, any final thoughts? I probably gotta hop off here.
Cool, man. Well, cool chatting with you.
Hold on real quick. Cliff Grant, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's I believe in the UK, he's a vegan activist. He says what's causing the most harm to animals is people funding animal agriculture. The best way to solve the problem is to advocate in a way that people understand and get them to be vegan. Yeah, I agree, except the complicated thing is if you advocate to people and they don't want to become vegan, the problem is I feel like most vegans stop there. I think they tell people, like, if you watch something like Earthling Ed, he will push as far as he can. He'll do it really nicely. He's great. And at the end of the conversation, the person leaves. And it's just this attempt to get somebody to be vegan, which is great. I just feel like, and maybe this is just in my old age, almost 40 now. I used to be on that side of like being tough with it all and just like vegan or nothing. Now I just feel like, okay, well, if they won't go vegan, maybe I need to sit for a few minutes longer and see if they'll be willing to cut back, like eat less, pick the animal that probably should be harmed the least. Like maybe if we care most about pigs, and be like, well, can you cut just pig meat out of your diet? Can you eat no meats on Meatless Monday type thing or whatever, and I feel like we're not talking with those people they're reasonable people. They're people that don't want to harm animals, but they're not willing to go vegan yet. And if we get them to leave the conversation not thinking vegans are assholes, I feel like that's just like an important element.
Once we get the government to stop subsidizing the meat and dairy industry, that's going to be a real big eye opener for all these people. Once the price of meat and dairy quadruples, they're going to have to deal with the financial burden of it, because right now, Papa Biden pays for about 80% of all the meat and dairy that everybody eats, because it is so financially insane to grow an animal to kill it for food. Financially, it makes no sense whatsoever. I used to have
What do you
goats.
think? Well, I don't know too much about it, so I can't really challenge your thoughts on it, or I don't even know if you know much about it. What do you think the reason is for that? Like, why would they subsidize that versus subsidizing produce?
Because it's a satanic death cult that who knows?
But who benefits from them subsidizing it that makes them make that choice? I wonder.
Well, the people who run the government own the hospitals and they own the meat facilities, and so if they're subsidizing unhealthy food to us, we're going to fill their hospitals till the day we die. They make a lot of money off of us being sick. So
So you think there might actually be negative intent there, like the members of Congress, some of them you think are aware that this is an unhealthy thing and they subsidize it because they want to see the profits from healthcare.
absolutely, if you follow the money, it all ends up in the
Interesting.
same places. But
So then the
once
people that are pro subsidies for animal ag would be anti free healthcare.
Yes.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like, I'm fascinated by politics, but I by no means am anywhere near an expert. So I couldn't even begin to tell you anything on this topic, but it's interesting to hear different ideas. Interesting.
Yeah, if the subsidies were gone, people would be eating meat once a week, maybe.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
it would it would immediately be something just for the elites, and there aren't that many elites around.
I wonder if people would hunt more.
Well, that might happen, but
But I think that costs a bit of money too, though.
there's too many people and not enough animals to be hunted, unfortunately.
True, true. Yeah, well, and in the same sense that when people see dead animals, they don't feel hungry. People also don't feel hungry when they hear about the meat of animals they're not used to. It's kind of like if
Yeah,
they got offered the milk of a
bear,
pig or
alligator, or
something.
something.
And
They're all,
yeah,
"Ugh."
yeah, yeah. Right? Yeah, it just comes down to how normalized it is.
Yep.
And
That's why
we
they don't
kind of
eat
have to
dogs and
figure out.
cats. It's just
Yep.
tradition. And
Yeah,
that's all meat
yeah.
eating is a weird, creepy, satanic tradition that needs to be dropped because it's
Yeah,
not
and it's
necessary.
in a weird sense, it's not their fault. It's just part of how the human brain works. And some people, they're just following their tribe and doing what they've been raised to do. But in another sense, it is their fault because um, they can reason, they can think it through, they can override their intuitions, and hopefully they will. Um, one last topic I do want to bring up because Cliff brought it up here, and I get this so often. But he says animals are not it. And that just irritates the hell out of me because I mean, we use words so we can communicate with each other. Uh, Things have their meanings, and I get it. I get the idea of wanting I don't know, to view the word it in a negative light. I personally, I don't know about you, but I use it for animals. I use it for babies. I use it for various different things. The other day, I was talking
Is it
about
comedic
like
value?
no, I was talking about it
Calling
for
babies it is pretty funny.
what's that? Oh,
Calling
calling
a
babies.
baby
Yeah.
it is pretty funny.
It's just what naturally comes to me. I think
Huh.
it's if I haven't communicated, if I can't communicate with something, I call it an it. Because I was referring to something involving like a corpse of a body the other day, like a human corpse. And I think I referred to it as it. And that's because I can't communicate with the corpse. I can't communicate with babies, and I can't communicate with animals. And then anything I can communicate with, if I don't know the gender, I'll say they. And if I can't communicate, I use it. And that might not make any sense. Anyways, do you get offended when you hear people use terms like that?
I try my hardest not to get offended ever. Getting offended
Cool.
is
Yeah,
a
me
sign
too.
of weakness, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
But no, I don't. I
Yeah.
don't. That's like a whole. That's the whole argument. The whole pronoun argument. Basically, we're getting down to, and it's awesome. It's all is really not really important labels and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
it's more
think.
important to be kind than it
Yeah.
is to worry about what someone's saying. Completely agree. And no offense to other people that do feel that way. I'm not too bothered every time somebody tells me not to say it. But or thing, if I use the word something being an animal being a thing. I just get it so often. But anyways, luckily we can try to all fight together to spread the word and care about animals, and hopefully people will stop eating them. So that's what matters, right?
Hell yeah, man.
Cool, man. Well,
Yeah.
this was really good talking, and we'll have to do it again
Yeah,
sometime.
for sure. I'm down whenever.
Awesome. All right. Take care.
All right. Peace.